तमाम साथियों को या अली मदद। कामड़े साहब, मेरी आवाज़ आप तक पहुंच रही है?
जी सर, I can hear you loud and clear.
थैंक यू। रशीदा साहिबा, आप लाइन पर हैं?
Yes, I am online, Aziz bhai.
शुक्र अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह। तमाम साथियों को एक बार फिर या अली मदद एंड रशीदा साहिबा, वेलकम बैक। आप तमाम साथी या अली मदद, आप तमाम साथी रशीदा साहिबा को जानते हैं, यहाँ पर्सन में या ऑनलाइन आपने तमाम ने सुना है, लेकिन we have a few newcomers on this line today, so I'd like to introduce her one more time in short so we can hear her. The Rashida Sahiba is a scholar. She lives in London. She have served ALWAAZ institution for over 40 years with a great knowledge of Islam and a deeper understanding of our tariqah, and especially the Bati aspect of our tariqah. And this is a continuous session on Ismaili tariqah, a Batini tariqah. We appreciate her knowledge and time, and thank you for joining us once again, Rashida Sahiba. Welcome, and floor is yours. Bismillah.
Thank you, Aziz bhai, for those kind words again. Ya Ali Madad, in the huzur of everybody who is online, I like to think of you all as seekers, personal seekers of knowledge, and it is always a great happiness to address those who are in this category of people. Alhamdulillah. Last time I started also with Ya Ali Madad, not only in the sense of greeting, which is the Ismaili greeting when we meet each other, but also Ya Ali Madad in the sense that, oh Mawla, help us in this session to convey as well as to listen, to digest, and to develop this knowledge further so that we can serve our Jamaat and we can be ambassadors for the rest of the world, for our tariqah and our faith. Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So just to recap, what we said last Sunday was that the Holy Quran has a zahir, which we call a tanzil, and it has a ta'wil, the inner meaning or the batin or the esoteric. And we mentioned many, many things about how the Quran is also a description of the Holy Prophet's spiritual perfection. So today, if we start with this notion or this concept, which is that if the Quran is the perfection of the spirituality of the Holy Prophet, then obviously it has to be full of haqaiq, what we would call in English spiritual realities. But spiritual realities are from another plane, from another dimension. And when they have to be explained in the Zahiri language, and you know, the Quran says that every prophet has been sent to the people in their language. So the language of the prophet was Arabic, and he had to explain or convey these haqaiq, these spiritual realities, which we also call intelligibles, into the language of his people, namely Arabic. So when this transmission happened in the Arabic language, the Prophet had to use, I had given you the example from Maulana Hazar Imam's speech in London, the word of God, the art of man, that Maulana Hazar Imam used 4 words: metaphor, parable, allegory, and simile or similitude. So that is the nature of the Quran. So now we want to build on this knowledge And today I want to first and foremost give you some references about Tanzil and Ta'wil. So we'll look at some hadiths, the traditions of the Holy Prophet. I know that in our Jamaat, I hope that all of us are familiar with the two very popular hadiths. One, I am the city of knowledge, and Ali is the gate, and I am the house of wisdom, and Ali is the door. Now, these are very simple, very short hadiths, but look how full of meaning they are. That if anybody wishes to access the knowledge or the wisdom of the Holy Prophet, they have to enter either through the gate of Ali into the city of knowledge or through the door of the house of wisdom, the Holy Prophet. But apart from that, there is a wealth of information in other hadiths as well. So for instance, the Holy Prophet has said that every verse of the Holy Quran has a zahir and a batin. And for every batin, there are 7 batins. And according to another hadith, he says 70 batins. And we know from the literature in which our Imams' quotations, Imams' sayings are preserved, that Maulana Jafar Sadiq had said that if a mu'min wanted more than 70 batins, then he could give more than 70 batins. And this, of course, is an explanation of وَكُلَّ شَيْءٍ أَسْرَيْنَاهُ فِي إِمَامٍ مُبِينٍ. Everything, all knowledge is encompassed in the Imam. There is no limit you can put to the Imam's explanations. So this verse that you have 7 batins for every zahir is also, I want to use this because I know that in your particularly in the country of the majority of you, which is the United States and Canada, people love Maulana Rumi, Jalaluddin Rumi. And I want to quote from his Masnavi, and this is from volume 3 and 4. And this is Reynold Nicholson's translation, which was done at the end of the 19th century. And in this, Maulana Rumi says this, very beautifully expressed. I shall read it out to you. Commentary on the tradition of Muhammad Mustafa, on whom be peace, that the Quran has an exterior sense and an interior sense, and that its interior sense has an interior sense, and so on to 7 interior senses. So he's commenting on this tradition. Now, this is what he writes in his Masnavi. Maulana Rumi says, know that the words of the Quran have an exterior sense, and under the exterior sense and interior sense, exceedingly overpowering. And beneath that inward sense, a third interior sense, wherein all intellects become lost. The 4th interior sense of the Quran, none hath perceived at all, except God, the peerless, the incomparable. In the Quran, do not thou, O son, regard only the exterior. The devil regards Adam as nothing but clay. The experience of the sense of the Quran is like a man's person, for his features are visible, while his spirit is hidden. A man's paternal and maternal uncles may see him for 100 years, and of his inward state not see so much as the tip of a hair. So this is Maulana Rumi writing beautifully. I'm sure that, it's so nice in the English translation. It must be even better in the Farsi original. He's saying very clearly that those people who deny the batin of the Quran are like those shaitans who denied that Hazrat Adam had the spirit of God in him, because they could only see the exterior, the zahir of Adam, which was clay. And in the same way, we think we know other people, but maybe we live with them for many decades, but we don't know what is really going on inside those people. So the inner is very important in our tariqah. And for this now, I want to quote to you a couple of more ahadiths because it is linked to the position of Maulana Ali. And today I am going to spend some time on our history because this is a shortcoming. This is a weakness amongst us that we don't know enough about our history. So first the hadith. The Holy Prophet was once with his companions outside and his sandal had broken. So Maulana Ali, about whom the Prophet, said, I am from Ali, Ali is from me. Maulana Ali took his sandal and went a little further away from the group to repair the sandal. And while he was repairing the sandal, Prophet was speaking to his companions. And the Holy Prophet said, indeed, among you there is the one who will fight for the sake of the ta'wil of the Quran as I did for the sake of its tanzil. The Prophet was asked, is he Abu Bakr or Umar? He said, no. So they said, well, who is he then? He said, he, and pointing to Maulana Ali, he said, وَهُوَ كَاسِفٌ نَعْلٍ, meaning he is the mender of the shoes. Now look at the humility of that description, the mender of the shoes. But he is the one who will fight for the ta'wil of the Quran, just like the Prophet was forced again and again to fight, physically fight, for the sake of the tanzil of the Quran. There is another hadith which is also very important. And this one is where the Prophet says, I am the master of tanzil wa aliyun sahibut ta'wil. I am the master of the tanzil of the Quran and Ali is the master of the ta'wil of the Quran. Very important hadith. Maybe not everybody who is online has heard these. And then, of course, there is the one where the Prophet says quite clearly, Al-Aliyun ma'al-Quran wal-Quran ma'al-Ali. That the Quran is with Ali and Ali is with the Quran. So all these things tell you that there is a tanzil and there's a continuing ta'wil, as we read from the preamble of our constitution in the last lesson, that the Holy Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam designated and appointed Maulana Ali alayhi salam to continue the ta'wil and the talim of the final revelation of God. So this is so important for us. We cannot emphasize it enough. So now I would like to talk a little bit further about Maulana Ali's role, because whatever was Maulana Ali's role is the role of every Imam from his progeny, and that is the role of the Imam of the time, Nur Maulana Shah Kareemul Hussaini Hazar Imam Salawatullahi alayhi. So, we have to look at history again, and history even before the Holy Prophet. Because as you know, Ismailis believe that religion didn't start with the Holy Prophet Muhammad. It started with Hazrat Adam, because they are all from the same source. Hazrat Adam, Hazrat Nuh, Hazrat Ibrahim, Hazrat Musa, Hazrat Jesus, and Hazrat or Isa, and Hazrat Nabi Muhammad Mustafa. They have all been appointed. And you can look this ayat up in the Quran. It is Surah 3, ayat 33, 34. That they are all from the same line and they all received a book of revelation. So the Prophet, referring to this belief of Muslim, he says, Allah has never sent a prophet except that he appointed for him a wasi, a waris, a wazir, a brother, and a wali. These are all titles of Maulana Ali relating to Hazrat Nabi Muhammad Mustafa himself. 4 of them start with the letter W. Wasi, another word for wasi is asas. Waris, inheritor. Wazir, deputy, the one who carries the load, burden. A brother, a key, must be from the same family. And a wali, the one who must be obeyed and who must be, we must love and devote ourselves to after the Prophet. So for this, I want to take you into history now. In history, we never hear these things in our wazis or whatever write-ups, etc. we receive in the Jamaat Khana. That is why I feel that today we should look at this. And I'm going to take you right back to the time when the Prophet received he went on Miraj and he received his prophethood, and he was at the age of 40. So the Holy Quran tells us in Surah 26, I'm going to be quoting quite a few Quranic ayats, and I suggest that all of you should have a piece of paper and a pen so that you can note them down. In this Surah 26, ayat number 214, God says to the Holy Prophet, وَأَنزِرْ أَشِرَتَكَ الْأَقْرَبِينَ. That means, and warn your tribe of near relatives. Warn. So the first thing God says to the Prophet when he starts his mission as the Prophet is that gather your closest relatives and warn them. So that's what the Prophet did exactly as he was commanded by God. He invited 40 of his relatives. Remember, this was a patriarchal society, so they were all male, and they all came from the children of Hazrat Abu Muttalib, who was Abdul Muttalib, Hazrat Abdul Muttalib, who was the grandfather of the Prophet and of Maulana Ali. So these people were all descended from Hazrat Abdul Muttalib. Very important fact. Then he gathered them, he had prepared dinner for them, and he asked them, he said that I have been appointed the Prophet of God. Who amongst you will help and support me in my mission? There was a silence. Hazrat Ali, according to some history books, was 11 years old. Other books say he was 13 years old. Right? So we are now talking about the Prophet is 40, Hazrat Ali is either 11 or 13. So Hazrat Ali stood up and he said to the Prophet, I will be your helper and your supporter. Now in Islam, this type of thing happens 3 times. So the Prophet asked again, who amongst you will help me? Again, it was only Maulana Ali at this tender young age who stood up and he said, I will be your helper and supporter. And a 3rd time, the Prophet asked, and Maulana Ali said, he was the only one who said, I will be your helper and your supporter. And it is at this time that Prophet Muhammad said to everybody, including Maulana Ali, indeed, Ali is my wasi, my waris, my wazir, my brother, and my wali. You know, I think generally the Jamaat thinks that Prophet Muhammad appointed Hazrat Ali as his successor as his waris, wali, wazir, etc. at Gadir Khum. Of course he did that at Gadir Khum, but he did it well before, at the start of his mission, because this is the divine law. This is a Qanun-e-Ilahi that at the start of the mission of any prophet, he should have a wasi, a wali, a waris. So if you go back to the history again, Hazrat Adam, in the beginning he had Hazrat Habil, but when Hazrat Habil was martyred by Hazrat Qabil, then his Asas wasi became Hazrat Shi, so said. Then Hazrat Nuh, Hazrat Sam was his wasi. In the case of Hazrat Ibrahim, we should all know it was Hazrat Ismail who was his Asas or wasi and wali. In the case of Hazrat Musa, it was his brother Aaron. And in the case of Maulana, our Holy Prophet Nabi Muhammad Mustafa, it was his cousin and brother, and that was Maulana Ali. And so there is also a very famous hadith in which the Prophet says, "O Ali, you are to me as Harun was to Musa, except there will be no more prophets after me." So this particular hadith, and it is accepted unanimously throughout the Ummah of Islam, that Ali had the same position to the Prophet Muhammad as Aaron or Harun had to Hazrat Musa. And for this, I'm going to give you a reference in the Quran. I hope that most of you know that of the 30 or so prophets who are mentioned in the Quran, the most detail is about Hazrat Musa, actually. So in the case of Hazrat Musa, I suggest that you take down this reference, Surah 20, from ayats 24 to ayat 32, and you'll have to read it very carefully because always the translations are a bit dodgy. I hope that if you know how to read Arabic, that will help you. If not, read the transliteration in Arabic, that will also help you. So here, the Prophet made it quite clear. And you know, it's very interesting. Those of you who have read Maulana Sultan Muhammad Shah Salwatullahi Alayhi's memoirs in the English print, chapter 8 is called The Islamic Concept and My Role as Imam. When he describes our interpretation of Islam, he doesn't mention Gadir Khum, but he mentions this, what is called the hadith of Mumasilat, the hadith of similitude, that Ali was to Prophet Muhammad, Hazrat Ali was to Prophet Muhammad, what Hazrat Harun was to Hazrat Musa. Very important. So now, having told you about the Shiratul Akrabin, the invitation to the closest relatives and what happened there, we should go to Gadir Khum. Because although Gadir Khum is explained in wazes and in write-ups, those people who have more information about our history, they find that they never do enough justice to that story. So the story goes like this, that it was time for the Prophet to leave the physical world. And being the Prophet, he knew that. So he announced to the entire community that he would be going on his final pilgrimage to Makkah. Because you may be aware that even though Makkah he had conquered without shedding a single drop of blood, he never returned to live in Makkah. He preferred to live in Medina. So he was going to the final pilgrimage to Makkah. And so thousands, literally a very large group of people accompanied him on his final pilgrimage to Makkah. And then when the Hajj was finished and they were returning to Medina, at the pond of Qum. Gadir in Arabic means a pond where they stop for the watering of the animals and the human beings. At the Gadir Qum, they stopped, and the Prophet gave orders that those people who are still straggling behind should be told to come quickly, and those people who had gone ahead a little bit, they were to be called back. And he also commanded that a stage, a makeshift stage, should be made of the camel saddles. So he had a stage made of this camel saddles, etc. So it was higher than the crowd, so that this huge crowd could see the Prophet. Now, why did he do all this? According to our interpretation, that he received that ayat which we recite in the third part of our dua, from Surah 5, ayat 67. Ya ayyuhar rasulu balligh ma unzila ilayka min rabbik wa illam tafal fama balagta risalatahu wallahu ya'simuka minan nas. Yes, this was the reason why it was a very strict type of an ayat. O Prophet, deliver to the people what has been revealed to you, because if you do not do so, it is as though you have not delivered your message. And then Allah will protect you from the people. Very strange, this last bit. Allah will protect you. So there were some people who were against what the Prophet was going to declare. And then this sentence that if you do not deliver this message, it is as though you have not completed or delivered your message completely. And this is also very strange, because the Prophet had been delivering ayats after ayats after ayat for 22 years and some more. Because now he was in his 63rd year, and he had been delivering the revelation, the wahi, from the age of 40, 22 odd years. So this ayat has to be looked at very carefully. Throughout my 19 years of serving the Jamaat here in London, many young people who knew the meaning, the way it is printed in the dua books, would come to me, and they would say to me, ALWAAZ, we think there's something not quite right about this ayah. But what does it mean? If you don't deliver my message, it is as though you will not have delivered my message. This is a bit strange. And yes, it is strange, because through research we find that there is something missing. There's something missing in this ayah. And what is missing? Our source is actually a very well-known Sunni scholar called Jalaluddin Suyuti, obviously an Egyptian. And he was born in 1445, and he passed away in 1505. So we are talking about the second half of the 15th and the first half of the 16th century. And what does he write in his book? And his book has been translated into Urdu as well now, alhamdulillah. And Fakir Sahib has checked it, and this translation is correct. So what he says is that this ayah was recited in this way. Ya ayyuhar rasulu balligh ma unzila ilayka min rabbik anna aliyan mawla al-mu'minin wa illam tafal fama balagta risalatahu wallahu ya'simuka minan nas. A whole phrase concerning the position of Maulana Ali has disappeared. And now what does it mean in English? It means O Prophet, reveal to the people or deliver to the people what has been revealed to you, that indeed Ali is the master of the Mu'mineen, of the Mu'mins. And if you do not deliver this, it is as though your whole message is not delivered. And people, Allah will protect you from the people. So look at this ayat now in this way of looking at it, in this new perception, that now it makes sense that without Ali and his progeny, the Quran would remain only the exoteric or the tanzil, and that would not have been the mission of the Prophet completed. His mission was completed when, with the tanzil, he made all the necessary arrangements to convey the ta'wil also. Very important that we should know this. That this, you know, it raises the whole question about, you know, what is in the Quran and what is not in the Quran. Of course, it does that, and we can discuss that at another time. To keep on our track for this idea of tanzil and ta'wil, we should look at this verse very carefully. And then the Prophet, when he received this ayat, Surah 5, ayat 67, he got onto the stage that was prepared hastily, and he said to the people, now again, he asks a question first. He says, do I not have a greater right over your souls than you yourselves? And they all replied in one voice, yes. Ya Rasulullah, you have a greater right over our souls. So he asked the same question again, and he asked the same question the third time. Do I not have a greater right over your souls than you yourselves? And you know, he was pointing to another ayat in the Quran, which is in Surah 33, ayat 6. I hope you are noting these down. That in this ayat, the Quran clearly says that an-nabiyyu awla bil mu'minin min anfusihim. That the Prophet has a greater right over the souls of the mu'min than they themselves. This is our relationship with the Imam. This is our relationship with the Prophet. So, when he asked that question, then they got the reply in the affirmative 3 times. Then he raised the hand of Maulana Ali and he said, he whose Mawla I am, Ali is his Mawla. Now this relationship is very important because many people have mistranslated and misinterpreted this hadith, and they have said, Prophet Muhammad was just praising Ali, just praising him and saying how much he loved him, whatever. No, the Prophet said, he whose Mawla I am, meaning he whose on whose soul I have a greater right, Ali has the same greater right. And then something which you never hear much is that after this, the Prophet also recited the hadith of the 2 weighty things that I'm leaving behind me, the hadith Sakalain as it is called, 2 weighty things, the book of Allah and my Ittrat, my progeny. And he used his index fingers because they are the same length. He didn't use 2 fingers from one hand because one is longer than the other. He used his 2 index fingers. And that's not the end of the story either, because we heard this hadith Sakalain on every festival day during both the Golden and the Diamond Jubilees. He said much more. When he had finished, he then raised his hands and he prayed. And this is a very important prayer. I will just recite it in English. He said, "O Allah, be the friend of he who is Ali's friend, and be the enemy of he who is Ali's enemy, and help those who help Ali, and abandon those who abandon Ali." And then there's a very important sentence coming now. And then he finished by saying, وَأَدْرِ الْحَقَّ مَا أُحَيْسُ دَارٍ, which means, and listen carefully, let haqq, the truth, let the haqq, the truth, turn in the direction in which Ali turns. He didn't say, let Ali turn in the direction of the truth. He said, let the truth turn in the direction in which Ali turns. That is the Ismaili belief about Imamah, and that is our relationship with our present Imam, because he is the Ali of the time. So these, I wanted to really go into detail in this historical, because I know that, you know, these things are very difficult to lay your hands on in terms of literature, and they are difficult in the sense that they are not shared in the Jamaat much. So I asked Aziz Bhai if I could continue, because I wanted to give this understanding and this information to all of you. So therefore, look at this. I will finish now because we are coming up to the end of the 40 minutes. This is Nasir Kisrao in Shimmering Light, an anthology of Ismaili poetry. There is a poem called The Exoteric and the Esoteric, the Zahir and the Batin. And this is what he says. The exoteric of revelation is like brackish water, salty water, yeah, brackish water. But the esoteric is like pearls for people who are wise. Since pearls and jewels are to be found on the seabed, look for the pearl diver instead of running up and down on the shore. The pearl diver is the Imam from the direct descent of the Holy Prophet. And you, as soon as I said the word that the esoteric is like pearls, I hope it rang a bell in your mind that Maulana Sultan Shah has a well-known farman where he says that whenever I open my mouth to make farmans, I spread before you mounds of pearls. So that's why the preamble of our constitution says that it is the work, the function, the role of the Imam that he should continue the ta'wil and ta'aleem of Allah's final message and to guide the murids. This is paragraph B of our preamble of the constitution. And I'm going to stop at that because that's exactly 3:40 according to my clock.